Okay, so it's been a while since we heard from Arizona. And it seems like they caught on to that story about the Canadian phone activity being less in the United States. I mean, you can see here Phoenix down 46%, Tucson 49, Yuma 62. Now, I said in my previous video that just phone activity alone, there's a lot of factors to this. I mean, some people could be using like eSIMs or local SIM cards in the United States like T-Mobile. But regardless, the amount of Canadians in the United States is down. And it kind of contradicts what this guy said earlier this year. Actually, I think it was in December.
Williams believes once the weather really starts to turn,
they'll make a statement for a while, and then they'll get in the middle of winter and then quietly get on a plane and go down the next day.
So this arrogant tourism CEO in Arizona basically thought we wouldn't be able to take the cold weather and that we would jump back on a plane and head to Arizona. Well, I don't think that actually happened. Because if it did, this report that I'm about to show you would not exist. So we're going to talk about this in this video. But on the flip side, Nova Scotia is gearing up and getting ready for the US tourists who are still coming to our country. And it looks like it's going to be a good summer season. So let's get started with a report out of Arizona first.
Our friends in the Great White North are taking a pass on Arizona. I'm ABC 50 data analyst Garrett Archer, and I'm taking you inside the numbers on the steep drop in Canadian tourists visiting our state. Sky Harbor updates their airport statistics every month, and in the first 3 months of 2026, total passenger counts from Canada's two largest air carriers into Phoenix are down 22% from the same time last year.
Now let's not forget, this is just comparing last year. You compare it to 2024, it's probably even bigger. But we do know that a lot of Canadian snowbirds have actually moved out of Arizona. In fact, I did interview one in the past, who now spends his winters in Spain. And I'm pretty sure he's not the only one that's done this. But it's really hard to have any sympathy for Arizona or for any other US state. When we heard what we heard earlier, let me replay it, because this actually really pisses me off, to be honest.
They'll make a statement for a while, and then they'll get in the middle of winter and then quietly get on a plane and go down the next day.
I don't know, this just screams US exceptionalism and arrogance if you ask me. I know that not everybody in Arizona voted for this mess that we're in, and there's some businesses that are affected because we're not going to your state anymore. But unfortunately, the comment that we just heard from your fellow citizen and a person in an executive role, it's enough to turn off a lot of Canadians. So if you're mad at anybody, be mad at this guy.
So here's what the data shows. 292,000 passengers on WestJet and Air Canada between January and March of last year. The most on record, by the way, but this January to March, only 229,000. Canadian passenger counts were similar throughout all of the 2024 and 2025 travel seasons. This travel season, though, the usual ramp up from July to December was the same, but then passenger counts flatlined in January.
And that's right about when that guy said that comment that we're just going to jump on a plane because we can't handle the winter. So the numbers speaks for themselves. And the once loyal Canadians that used to go to Arizona, well, they're not loyal anymore.
This is a big deal. While most of our tourism comes from Mexico, 3.6 million visitors last year, Canada comes in second with about 852,000 people, almost double the tourism we get from Europe and Asia combined. It's not just airport data either that confirms this. A study from the University of Toronto tracked phone activity data and found Canadian visits to Arizona metros are down from 33 to 62% year over year. And we are not alone. Canadian travel is down everywhere. Orlando, San Francisco, New York, and Las Vegas.
I don't think there's a single city in the United States that has gone up in tourism. And it does make me happy to see these numbers. And I'm not anti-American. I mean, the United States has to learn a lesson from this. I mean, you gotta learn that you can't piss off the entire world and still expect people to come visit you. But unfortunately, I don't think that lesson will ever be learned. Because right now, what we're seeing is a lot of deflection, a lot of blaming other stuff, anything but their own country. Now, a small population out of the 340 million, they do understand. But the rest of them, not a chance.
All down over 55%. So why does this matter? Canadians are big spenders. They typically have a travel budget of around $6,700 and inject 1.5 to 2.4 billion annually into our economy. So any drop is going to be felt by the state's hospitality sector. With a look inside the numbers, I'm Garrett Archer, ABC 15.
Now think about all that revenue that's being lost. But most importantly, think about all the tax revenue that's being lost. A while ago, I saw on a US subreddit that people were complaining that they were losing their jobs. And these are city jobs, which you would think would be safe. But when you're not getting money like this in on an annual basis, something's got to be cut. Now, I want to show a related article, and it's titled, Arizona Tourism from Canada Plummets by 20% as Snowbirds Skip Seguros. Seguros? I don't know what that is. But I want to show you a couple paragraphs and also the reasoning why they feel Canadians are not coming down. This section here is titled, Why Are Fewer Canadians Visiting Arizona? Arizona Office of Tourism staff cited policy sensitivity, economic pressures, and competition from other destinations as a reason for the drop in Canadian visitors in 2025. Experts attribute the decline in demand for Canadian tourist visits to the US in part to Canadian travelers' negative sentiments of President Taco Tuesday's tariffs on Canadian goods and his calls to annex Canada as a 51st state. Okay, I give them credit for actually saying it. Some Canadians are avoiding US travel because the Canadian dollar is weak against the US dollar. Ah, fuck off. You were so close, you just ruined it with that last sentence. Nationwide, many US airports have lost routes to Canada because of the lower demand from Canadian travelers and snowbirds. Many Canadian airlines have refocused their winter schedules on routes to Mexico and the Caribbean to meet greater demand from Canadians for those flights. So, in my opinion, I mean, this is just for me, but as long as they keep mentioning the exchange rate and the weak Canadian dollar, that tells me they haven't learned. They haven't really understand the true reason why Canadians are not coming back. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me on this part. And if you do, and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button below if you want to hear more from like an unbiased, un-American point of view. Now I'm skipping forward a little bit because they just talk about the typical stuff we normally hear. Like how it's affecting their economy, numbers that are a little bit questionable, stuff like that. But this paragraph here, it's actually from the guy that I showed earlier, the one that says we're going to come back down when it's too cold. Glenn Williamson, CEO and Chief Research Officer of the Canada-Arizona Business Council, anticipates about 20% fewer Canadians will visit Arizona in the 2025-2026 season. Short-term visitors who stay for 30 days or fewer, plus snowbirds who stay for 31 days or longer, are both critical to Arizona's economy. Williamson estimates that the total annual economic contribution in Arizona is at least $2.4 billion. This scale rivals the economic output of several Arizona counties and approaches the major export-driven industries, yet it drives without subsidies, incentive packages, or publicly funded recruiting efforts, he said in a February report. Now listen to this one. WestJet's reduction in non-stop service between Canada and Phoenix over the summer months seems like it's doing the right thing because fewer people visit in the summer with Arizona's triple-digit temperatures, Williams said. So in other words, the flights to the United States, Arizona specifically, are being removed because the temperature is too high. Not because of the president, not because of the 51st state stuff, not because of CBP or ICE, it's because it's triple-digit temperatures. Like what kind of bullshit is that? If that was the case, why are WestJet and Air Canada and even Porter and Air Transat, why are they canceling flights everywhere, not just to your state? I'm pointing this out to everyone so that you can see the continued gaslighting that we're getting from tourism officials south of the border. They did it back then, and they're doing it now, and they'll be doing it for the foreseeable future. See, this is the reason why. And I posted this comment on my subreddit. I mean, the thread was talking about how Taco Tuesday is not the problem, it's the people who got him there. And let me read this out. The biggest problem for me is the countrymen. Tariffs, ICE, CBP, US government could all switch back to the level of normalcy. But knowing that there are people, business owners, restaurants, owners, staff, knowing that some of these people voted for Taco Tuesday and openly supported the 51st state BS is what's keeping me away for a long time. And that includes this guy right here. The continued excuses, thinking that we're just going to come down because it's too cold for us. And now, we're not coming down because it's too hot. It just shows he's not pointing the finger at the right people. So for Arizona residents that might be in trouble and losing their job and whatever else because we're not coming down anymore, at least for me, this would be my reason for not coming to your state anymore. And it's this guy on the screen. Now off to some good news. It looks like Nova Scotia is going to be getting a lot of tourists this summer and is coming from the south. Let's take a look.
Known as the Cat Ferry, which connects Yarmouth to Bar Harbor, Maine, is expected to see plenty of passengers this year. Bay Ferries Limited said Thursday preseason reservations for the ferry rose from just under 14,000 in 2025 to 18,000 this year, an increase of about 29%.
And we're tracking right now between 80 and 85% of the number so far is American utilization of this service, which is a great leading indicator of what the service is meant to do.
Now, I've always said, all of us Canadians, or everyone watching this channel right now, we're most likely going to be avoiding the United States. But I'm not going to tell any US citizen not to come to Canada. If you want to come to Canada and support our economy, hey, I have no problems with that, and we'll welcome you. Unless you're wearing a stupid red hat like this person. But things are different when you're coming to Canada. We're not going to search your phones. We're not going to detain you. We're not going to send you off to a detention center somewhere. And we're not going to collect your DNA. I think most international travelers know this. That's why our tourism season last year boomed. And we're poised to have another great summer season coming up.
Despite a tense year in international relations between the U.S. and Canada, the town of Yarmouth says they didn't notice a decline in American tourists and look forward to welcoming more.
Can't wait. Tens of thousands of Americans coming our way. It's all good news.
But when it comes to Canadians traveling south, experts say those numbers still haven't recovered.
I think a lot of those hurt feelings from last year are still there, and they're not resolved in any way, which is why you're seeing at least a 25% decline in Canadians traveling to the United States.
Nevertheless, the bond hasn't broken between Maritimers and their New England neighbors.
This has always been a destination spot for American tourism, and cost-wise, an American dollar goes farther than a...
Now that is true. Their dollar goes farther in Canada, and I think a lot of US citizens are starting to take advantage of that, which is good for us as well. And I will continue to say that we will always welcome US citizens to Canada, but the relationship isn't going to be two-way anymore. You can come to our country, but we're not going to go to yours.
Than a Canadian dollar does at the moment. The size of the American market is just so massive that, it's hard to sort of round up new markets to compete with that.
We just have to go back a few years to when the ferry was not here. It's the difference between having a business and having a successful business and not having one at all.
Critics say the provincial subsidy of about $21 million a year, about $620 per passenger, isn't worth the cost. However, the ferry remains a big part of Nova Scotia's tourism strategy, which reported $3.7 billion in revenue last year.
In light of all the uncertainty that's happening, so the potential for Nova Scotia with a new strategy where partners are working together, where we're beefing up our access into the province, where we're looking at the quality of our product. If all those things come together, the potential is tremendous for significant growth.
Now, one thing I do have to say is that growth is not guaranteed. I think we learned by now that anything can happen when it comes to the United States. And I'm just throwing this out there, but I mean, we know how radical the US government is. And this is a fictitious but potential situation. But if they decide somehow or some way to restrict US citizens from coming to Canada, that will affect our tourism industry. But one thing that Canada has that the United States doesn't is our reputation, and the fact that we still have international viewers and tourists that still want to come to our country. I hope this fictitious scenario doesn't happen, but then again, we know the behavior of the Taco Tuesday guy. I mean, he could get mad over a tweet. So at least for now, it does look optimistic for Canada's tourism season, but we always have to be careful. To close off this video, I would like to thank Mocha from our Discord server for posting this photo from English Bay, Vancouver. English Bay is towards the right. I mean, you can kind of see the water in the top right area. But these statues that you're looking at here, they've been a staple of the area for I don't know how long, at least 20 years, I think. And I think anyone who has ever visited this area has done at least one of these statue poses. I mean, I've done it, sober and drunk. So thank you, Mocha, for sending this photo of my home and reminding me of where I'm from. Alright everyone, that's all I got for this video. If you found any value in anything I said today, or you want to hear more from a Canadian and international perspective without the US media bias, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. That way you'll be notified of my future videos. And if you want to see more of my videos, check out the ones that are going to show up on your screen shortly. Thanks everyone. I'll catch you in the next one.